Good morning, everybody. Today is August 1st, Saturday, 2026. In today's weather discussion, we'll be talking about the tropics as well as the Super El Nino. And on top of all of that, we will be discussing the excessive heat and life-threatening heat that remains across the southwest and the southern plains. Okay, everybody. As we can see right here, Super Typhoon Dolphin currently has maximum sustained winds of 145 miles per hour. Still a very strong system. I anticipate to hit Japan, at least the southern islands of Japan, with around Category 1 to Category 2 force winds there, with gusts of around 130 at that time. Now, at this moment, Dolphin has undergone another eyewall replacement. As you can see, that eye is beginning to weaken again. So it does have that potential to undergo another eyewall replacement by tonight. And from this is the weakening cycle of Typhoon Dolphin. So we don't expect to see much more out of this system other than potential impacts across the southern Japanese islands. Although it could stretch more south, it could stretch more north. That's just my personal and forecasted area of impact, at least for now. I will inform you guys further if this system does happen to re-strengthen or as it edges closer towards those southern Japanese islands. Alrighty, folks, as we can see here, we do have our wide Atlantic imagery. As you can see, there is some convection coming off of Africa, which models are starting to back each other on this potentially becoming something tropical. Now, whether there is enough backing or the environment is favorable enough, we're still extremely unsure, but this possibility is still growing, as well as the National Hurricane Center could be putting a lemon on this sometime soon. Now, here in in eastern Missouri through southwestern Illinois, we are seeing some pretty decent convection as well as there was some earlier throughout central South Mississippi and Alabama, probably producing some pretty decent thunderstorms, I'd assume. And then you have some pretty deep convection off of that handle of North Texas there throughout eastern New Mexico. Now, from this, we could see something tropical, like I said down here. Not too impossible, not highly likely. But what I will say is remember to be aware and stay informed in case this does develop. Now, if it does, the highest probability and the most backing the system has gotten out of any potential development is that it gets dragged by the Bermuda High out to sea, which is generally how these systems tend to move. Now, say it were to form down here in just outside of the Caribbean, it either wouldn't develop at all due to the super El Nino, or it could manage to just break through that patch of drier air and um slightly cooler area and get up into the northern Caribbean through the Gulf. See, in that scenario, we could see something potentially um eye churning here, but it's just we don't know enough to say anything too much about it yet. To be fair, the National Hurricane Center hasn't even made this a spot on their outlook map yet. Okay, everybody, looking here at our sea surface temperature anomalies by NOAA, we can see that our 1 plus 2 and 3 plus 4 region of our El Nino area is very, very warm and potentially historic upcoming. And right now we're seeing around 2.5 degrees above average Celsius. So, it is going to keep heating up until at least late August, and at that point, from that point on, we could be seeing some severe weather throughout southeast United States as well as the Midwest and the Southern Plains. Now, what this means for Southeast Asia here, anybody from Southeast Asia, you guys will be in severe, severe drought and a lot of wildfire potential. So you have to be ready to have an evacuation plan for potential wildfires. Now, here in the southeast, you could be seeing a higher risk than normal for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. Also in the southern plains, a lot of hail potential. as well as the Midwest, that wind threat will persist as well as those tornadoes. Now, here in this 1+2 region, this is the spot that's going to be the warmest, is this eastern part of this El Nino. It's an eastern dominant El Nino, and these are generally some of the strongest. So, what we have to watch throughout this one is just how quickly will it continue to warm. If it continues to warm at the pace that it has been, this could be beyond historic. This could be uncharted. So we just have to be ready for anything to happen. So make sure to have your action plans in place for that severe weather that could be potentially upcoming this late to early to mid winter throughout late fall. And then, like I said, those in Southeast Asia, just get ready for that potential of wildfires and drought because this will be a very unforgiving consequence of this El Nino. But that is all we have for this part of the El Nino. Okay, everybody, as you can see here, we are looking at our latest value of 2.354 Celsius above average. And this is just really, really unforgiving. This is the 3+4 region. It did have a little bit of a downtrend very, very recently. But it's been having obviously that same pattern the whole way up, so I do expect it to rise a couple more degrees. That is absolutely a possibility. Now, from here, like I said, that severe weather threat, everything like that, we went over it. Keep that in the back of your mind because this right here, we haven't seen anything like this since I think 1981. So once again, very, very, very strong trend. Very strong trend. But this is all we have for the trend anomaly. All right, everybody, we're back at it on weather front. And as we can see down here throughout southeastern Missouri, throughout southwestern Illinois, and moving into Louisiana, we could we actively are seeing severe thunderstorm warnings with a possibility of a tornado. So, you know, very strong line of storms here. Um, Tornado possible in both of these warnings, and I think overnight it will just be moving this general vicinity towards this area around Jackson, Tennessee, throughout Dyersburg. But you know, as we can see here, it has been it has been strengthening. So that's just something we have to keep in the back of our minds here. For anybody in these areas, that this continues to strengthen. Yes, it continues to cluster a bit more, but that doesn't take away from that wind and hail threat, as that hail threat will proceed to rise with the clusters building a bit more thicker here. We could see that potential rise for some pretty decent sized hail. And I mean, we can take a look here at, let's see, let's look at our lightning here. Um, Never mind. Uh, we'll take a look at obviously very strong systems. You know, I think I just it's gonna start to dip south when it reaches around here, Sykeston. It's gonna start to move a bit to the south, not directly south, but more so like that. Um, for anybody who's wondering how this will trend later on. So I think this area out here is in a slighter risk for that severe weather. So, anybody where I'm highlighting, you have that potential, but, you're not really in too big of a threat here. But as it starts to move here, it's going to start to trend like this. It's going to start to trickle downwards into like I said, Deersburg, spots like that. So you just have to be ready for that, right? Now, on a national forecast level, seeing some pretty strong thunderstorms coming off the coast of Pensacola as of right now. Um, Luckily that line of storms builds just as it reaches the end of the coastline, so any threat for tornadoes out the window. Now looking here in Lubbock, Texas, they are seeing a severe thunderstorm warning with 60-mile-an-hour observed winds. Um, and potentially pea-sized hail. This is Hobbs, New Mexico. Yes, Hobbs, New Mexico. So, and just there's special weather statements around it. So that is showing that the wind field is pretty big here. So you just have to watch that. And you can sort of see the low here. um, right in here, and it's moving counterclockwise. So that's what a lot of these storms are coming out of here. So they're gonna persist, especially potentially throughout Peoria, Hoopeston, Champaign, um, Decatur, Springfield potentially, Lincoln maybe. But here I'll highlight some of those areas that could see a threat. So it's gonna be a good spot to watch there. That's probably where that's where we're gonna see our highest risk of severe weather and tornadoes and stuff like that. Now, up here in the UP of Michigan, a lot of rain, and I mean a lot of rain right now. And the temperatures will remain pretty decent as of right now, but as you can see here in the Phoenix, temperatures still sticking as high as 113. Now, tomorrow we could be looking at 112 to 110. Still extremely hot. Not a big difference. Not a barely noticeable difference there. So you're just gonna want to wear your sunscreen, drink a lot of water, and try to remain indoors if possible, because this area right throughout here, even in parts of LA, seeing some extreme heat. And I'm talking like dangerously hot. Now, here into the southern plains, obviously it starts to shift a bit south there. So, and it begins to move into New Orleans, which could be seeing temperatures of up to 102 within the next day or so. Now, into Monroe, Shreveport, even Jackson, Mississippi, could be seeing upwards of around 100 to 107, which is extremely hot. And then down here in the southern Texas here, 109 in Corpus Christi. And then McAllen saying up to 113 there. So very hot. Now, obviously, you have a pretty good amount of some deep convection coming off of the coast of Florida overnight. And Orlando seeing 98 there. Very hot throughout parts of East Central Florida and parts of even West Central Florida. And then going up here into Washington, D.C. area, also seeing some pretty warm temperatures, mid to upper 90s there. I mean, mid 80s to lower 90s, sorry. New England, very consistently nice temperatures. Not too hot, sticking to those mid to, yeah, around mid 80s there. But up here, throughout the Pacific Northwest, it is cooling off. Like, it is really cooling off. 55 there. We can run that model back a little bit here for you. Look, 57, 59, 55, 51 here in Bend. So Seattle seeing 57. That is pretty darn chilly. 53 in Winthrop. So you guys are catching a really nice summer break right now. And then obviously I don't really cover other countries, but here in the southern Canada, 38 degrees in Whistler. That is pretty chilly. I just feel that is something that should be covered there because, I mean, that is really, really chilly for this time of year. But obviously, that El Nino will be heating up the entire country of Canada. And that does include Alaska up here. Um, gonna be seeing some pretty warm temperatures. I mean, yeah, pretty warm temperatures. Um, into that El Nino, so this winter is gonna be pretty warm for you. Potentially record warm. Um, and then going into northern Wisconsin here into the UP of Michigan, 58. Like you guys are catching a good break, 58 to 65 there. But the South and the Southwest still can't catch a break. And that is a big reason as to why we're covering this heat because it is so persistent. Now, looking at our convective outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, we are still seeing some slight risk for Lubbock, Texas, with wind being that primary threat, as well as St. Louis with a 5% tornado risk and a 15% wind risk. This is the spot we are going to want to watch overnight because going into um later today, we will be seeing that threat proceed to move this direction. So, obviously, that's what we're looking at. It's going to spread out a bit more. Not as thick, but um it goes more vertical rather than, you know, thick like we're seeing out here towards St. Louis. Now, obviously, that day 3 outlook, we're still seeing that threat persist. I think they will up to a slight risk just due to the broad area of what's it called? Broad area of marginal risk. And then going into day 4, we are seeing some severe risk throughout Fargo, Grand Forks, Thief River Falls, Panama, Bem Bemidji, Park Rapids, Detroit Lakes, and Fergus Falls area, even into the Angle Inlet of Minnesota. So, definitely a spot we're going to be wanting to watch there. 110%, because, it's just very potential for, potential tornado, moderate-ish tornado outbreak. Now, obviously, as viewed here, that convection is pretty deep throughout Farmington, St. Louis, Salem, Sullivan, Mountain, all the way down into Mountain Home. Um, we are just seeing this very deep area of convection right here. And it's going to persist, like I said, towards the southeast, into Nashville by tomorrow. So Nashville, please prepare, or later today, I apologize. So yeah, that's what we're seeing so far for the national forecast. Okay, everybody, looking here at the National Hurricane Center tropical weather outlook, nothing for the Atlantic in the next 7 days. Very blank. I do think they could potentially put a lemon right in this spot, just off the western coast of Africa there. Not preferably, sorry, specifically in the 15 north region towards the 30 west region. So, I think that's what we're looking at as of right now. Now, looking at Genevieve, still out there, really been pushing that time, man. Now has brought that minimum central pressure back up to 1,000 millibars, 50 miles an hour, and moving west-northwest at 13 knots there, which is 15 miles per hour. Looking at the Central Pacific, obviously Genevieve is moving into that area. Um, I don't think it'll hit Hawaii, and if anything were to go over Hawaii from Genevieve, it wouldn't be tropical. I think it'd just be a little bit of rain. But that's all we got right now for the tropics. Alright, everybody, if you found tonight's video informative, life-saving, and helpful, please make sure to drop a subscription or at least like the video, as I really do appreciate that. And also, please make sure to show your friends and family because that would really help out a lot, as I am still a growing creator on this platform of YouTube. So thank you guys so much for watching. Weather Frontier here. I am out.